Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Simple Politics. I'm so sorry guys, today I look really crusty, but just listen to what I'm here to deliver. I'm just here to do a reaction on the midterm budget from the Minister of Finance. There's quite a few things that I picked up, but I also want to read the statement from the economic freedom fighters. I'm also just going to give a reaction from the economic freedom fighters. I think I'm going to try to find the reply or the response for Vuyo Zungula as well. So technically, or summary, there is no plan for unemployment. And it's really, really sad to see that our people, our government rather, they have no plan of unemployment. They are not working towards anything to make unemployment better. So the minister mentioned also that there's a big debt, like the country is in debt. So obviously some of the money, a big portion, has to go towards, it has to try or minimize the debt. I was listening to I don't know who I was listening to. I don't know if it's Julius Malema or what, but he was saying, Ubana, instead of taking the money and opening factories, I think it's Vuyo Zungula, I'm not sure, opening factories, and so that there's a money being generated, people are getting jobs, and then there's profit which can be used to pay the debt. All the money is being taken to pay another debt, which is creating more debt and not generating any money. I think it's Vuyo Zungula. Yeah, I need to find Vuyo Zungula's reply and attach it here at the end. So there's no plan. There's really no plan to end unemployment. And I'm listening to the DA as well. They are giving their reaction and they seem happy that no... the minister, we are heading in the right direction. What direction? Because they're not giving a plan. Okay, this is what we are planning to do, or the 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, the only thing I heard there is that the country is in debt, and they have to try and pay the debt. Yeah, well, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
That has risen too fast and is too high. We are anticipating that government debt will reach more than 6 trillion or 75% of GDP in 25-26. We know that our debt is unsustainable because debt service costs have become the largest component of our spending, and it is rising faster than economic growth. Debt service costs will reach 388.9 billion rand in the current financial year. Put differently, this means for every 1 rand of revenue that government raises this year, 22 cents of this is paid in debt service cost. To deal with this problem, we have taken difficult steps to reduce the budget deficit. We have restrained spending and maintained stable tax collection. As a result of our measures, government achieved a primary budget surplus in 23-24 for the first time in 15 years. As I said earlier, the surplus is needed for us to stabilize.
I don't know. Let me read the statement from the economic freedom fighters. So the EFF says, EFF on midterm budget policy statement tabled by the Minister of Finance. The economic freedom fighters firmly rejects the midterm budget policy statement tabled by the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana. In the National Assembly today, the policy stated advocates for programs that entrench racialized. This policy statement advocates for programs that entrench racialized apartheid-era economic policies, prioritizing profits for the racist private sector over job creation, sustainable development, and meaningful economic growth. Which is, even the DA also said, yeah, the economy hasn't been growing, but then they're not getting into the part where, okay, now that it's not growing, but what are we doing to make sure that it grows? Yeah, The policy statement tabled by the Minister of Finance represents the first official joint neoliberal economic policy of the Grand Coalition led by the Democratic Alliance alongside the former liberation movement, the African National Congress. This coalition shamelessly puts the interest of the few above the desperate majority of an unemployed youth. Notable, this alliance between the DA and the ANC has finally buried the misconceived and misguided National Development Plan, NDP, as it is not mentioned anywhere in the statement. Additionally, there is no recognition of the vital role a state bank could play in promoting financial inclusivity or any commitment to the finalization of the Sovereignty Wealth Fund to secure the national economic stability and future prosperity. The budget policy statement fails to acknowledge the imminent uprising of unemployed and desperate young people who have lost hope in the democratic dispensation. The EFF is vindicated in asserting that the DA and ANC upholds the same neoliberal policies, both serving the interest of the racist capital at the expense of millions of unemployed youth languishing in the peripheries of society, left with no option but a life of drugs and crime. Over the past 3 decades, economic policy, particularly fiscal policy, has been mismanaged by the National Treasury. In the past 10 years, while in the global gross domestic product, GDP, real growth has been average above 3%. South Africa's growth has not exceeded 2%. This demonstrates the former liberation movement complete failure to grow the economy. It is foolish and misguided to believe that the economic growth is possible without the state at the forefront. In control of key strategic sectors such as logistics, telecommunications, and finance, rather than relying on the mercy of racist private sector nostalgic for apartheid days. You cannot stabilize microeconomy policy, deliver infrastructure, and build state capacity while implementing austerity budget. The Treasury forecasts remain unreliable, consistently revised downward. The projected 1.8 GDP growth over the medium term is fictional, with no policy intervention supporting such growth. As the government continues prioritizing profitable for a failing private sector over job creation, infrastructure, revitalization, and functional local government, the MTBPS, represented by the finance minister, lacks the decisive action required. Instead, the unholy alliance of racist and the neoliberal faction within the forefront liberation movement further entrenches ongoing privatization under a scheme paraded as an evidence-based policy intervention, dubbed Operation Vulindlela, which is nothing but the International Monetary Fund privatization blueprint. We are gravely concerned by ongoing efforts to hand over key public functions, which should be within strategic state-owned entities, to the private sector. The devolution weakens the state capacity to deliver essential social infrastructure that prioritizes development over the private profit. The fact that there are plans to invite private companies to deliver water, rail, port services, and sanitation infrastructure without the private sector assuming any risk confirms that the DA-led coalition is determined to loot public money. The EFF rejects the attempt to centralize infrastructure spending in the National Treasury under the guise of budget transparency, while the true intent is centralized patronage to a select few companies that will act as extensions of the state, operating for profit rather than service delivery. This is done under the misguided conservative ideology that equates everything from the white-owned private sector with good, despite its foundations in the corruption and racism, as we have seen with previous transversal contracts. So, just to summarize, what the EFF is saying here, they are rejecting the budget because they feel like instead of making some of the strategic sectors state-owned, they are handing them over to private companies, which obviously, as we know, if the private companies are distributing water, the poor are going to get poor because you're going to have to buy those things. You will not be able to afford them anymore. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'm going to attach a reaction of Julius Malema. He was interviewed in Parliament. I'm also going to attach a reaction of Vuyo Zungula. I want to see if I can find that reaction because I watched it, but I just need to find it of Vuyo Zungula. Then you guys can let me know what you think in the comment section.
What the finance minister is to deliver in his midterm budget?
Well, we reject the budget, and what South Africa should actually notice is that it's the first neoliberal budget of the coalition of the DA and the ANC, which prioritizes the racialized apartheid styles of economic growth, and its intention is to continue privatization of strategic sectors of our economy. How come do you have a midterm budget that has got no clear plan on how we are going to reduce unemployment? Because the problem of unemployment in South Africa is very serious. The issue of infrastructure development is just paying a lip service, and there's no clear plan as to how we're going to resolve that. At the center of an economic crisis we're faced with is also crime. The crime in South Africa makes it difficult for people to do business with South Africa and in South Africa, yet it doesn't say anything about that. This thing of trying by all means to reduce the state, it's going to undermine the state capacity. And as the EFF, we knew very well that this neoliberal agenda will prioritize a privatization. Today they officially buried GDP. Their policy was GDP. Today nothing is mentioned about the GDP as the official departure from GDP to a neoliberal agenda. Well, the austerity measures are the ones that are being used to curb the government debt. But that comes at the expense of ordinary people, especially the working class in South Africa. There is no clear direction as to how do we curb the debt, but manage to give our people the services and not impose austerity measures that are going to worsen the cost of living and increase poverty and unemployment.
Thank you so much.
It's difficult to pick up a positive because what the minister stated, he alluded to the problems that we are facing. The first one is the inability to generate more revenue. And however, it does not provide solutions because we would have expected the minister to at least focus on the illicit financial flows that are in the regions of billions, which could be utilized to increase the revenue streams of our country. We've got illicit trade. For example, the tobacco trade is worth over, is close to 20 billion, but nothing is done when it comes to tapping into that revenue stream. You've got the informal economy that is over 500 billion rands per year, but the minister again is refusing to tap into that particular revenue stream to create more income for the country, because the reality is that the number of people that are paying taxes is getting lower, and that is why there's going to be budget cuts. But in the absence of the minister being clear to say, but this is how we're going to generate other revenue, because the informal economy, it is a low-lying fruit, basically, because it takes nothing for SARS to actually establish a unit that will focus on the informal economy. It takes nothing for SARS, again, to go after illicit tobacco or alcohol trade. So that is our view on the issues when it comes to revenue. When it comes comes to job creation, jobs are not going to fall from the sky. There needed to be a change in terms of government attitude. Currently, the government is spending over 80% of its budget on big business, but the small businesses are not getting enough when it comes to government spending. In our view, if you want to boost employment, you need to have a government that is focusing more on SMMEs. And again, you need to have a manufacturing-driven economy instead of having a consumering-driven economy.
How do we get to that particular point? Because the other issue that has been raised is that perhaps maybe for South Africa it may be a bit difficult to compete when it comes to the manufacturing sector, because you've got China as well, and China is able to deliver manufactured goods at a much cheaper price than what South Africa would be able to do. But then also the agribusiness space as well, not much being done there.
It is a missed opportunity, because if you look at the nature of our country, we used to have a very strong textile industry that was competing with the rest of the world. However, with the policies that the government actually embarked on that allowed the cheap products from China, because China would be trading with all countries in the world. But the question would be, how come are other countries focusing on protecting some sectors of the economy, so that, because you know that if you protect some of these industries, you are protecting the employment of the country. However, if you are going to be crying to say, but China can make it cheaper, it means you are, in other words, exporting jobs to China. So there needs to be that balance to say, yes, China might produce cheaper, but however, we have got this national crisis of unemployment. Therefore, we're going to be deliberate when it comes to protecting some industries in order to make sure that we do get employment in our country.
Thank you.
Anyway, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Zizipolo Pelwane. This is a platform where we react to everything in politics. We simplify what needs to be simplified. We react to what needs to be reacted on. So yeah, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe, guys. I'm so sorry I look crusty today, but I promise on the next episode, I'll put up a show for you. Aluta continue. The struggle continues, guys.